Hi everyone. As you may know, I have just started launching, or rather relaunching, my early books, the backlist as it were, in new editions. They have these illustrated covers with my name in big lettering, and there's about 16 of them. I'm really thrilled with this project because it's enabled me to present the books from the first part of my writing journey in editions that I had wanted them to be in the first place. Often what happened was publishers took advantage of me as a young and enthusiastic writer, and they insisted that I remove big chunks and change other chunks. So what I've done is I've gone back to the original manuscripts and dusted off work that I thought should have been included in the first place. And I've cleaned up, writing that was a bit dodgy, and I have now created the books that I always wanted to release. Sorcerer's Apprentice was the second travel book I wrote. It's maybe the strangest book I've written, and certainly the strangest travel book. And it's a book that means a huge amount to me. When it was published in 1998, I came in for praise and a lot of flack as well. And that pleased me because I think the worst thing that can ever happen, whether it's a book, a movie or anything else, is not to make an impact. So if someone hates something I write, I'm delighted because it's stuck in their mind and it's got them thinking about stuff that they might not have considered without it. I wanted to read the afterword at the end of Sorcerer's Apprentice. It's a text that I wrote recently for this edition, and it didn't appear in the original book. What was valuable to me was to look at the book with hindsight, 20 years or more hindsight, and to consider it in new ways, in the way that you might hold up a little cup and look at it from different angles. And that's what I certainly did when I wrote the afterword. Here's how it goes. I never planned to write Sorcerer's Apprentice. Setting down my experiences amid the underbelly of Indian magic was the furthest thing from my mind. The haphazard journeys I had made through the subcontinent on the heels of illusion were very personal adventures I had never expected to share with anyone. They were part of my preoccupation with the stage magic that was pioneered by Harry Houdini and by others more than a century ago. From the first moment I reached India, I was transfixed by the intense cultural colour. It hit me like a bucket of ice water and was like nothing I had ever experienced before. Whereas Europe is so often little more than thin consommé, India is a mesmerizing, intoxicating goulash of a land. I found that I couldn't help but drink it all in, feasting on the details and the interwoven layers of life. For the first time ever, I felt that I had arrived at a place with a full spectrum. There was more life in a few feet of Calcutta pavement than in entire cities elsewhere. And as I was to learn, the most ordinary looking people were the gatekeepers into a world of mystery and marvel, the kind of place that has bewitched Occidental travellers for centuries. When I wrote Sorcerer's Apprentice, the critics were kind but disbelieving. Some of them implied that I'd made the whole thing up. What I have been trying to explain ever since the first copies hit bookshop shelves is that this is a story of India, a land where the unbelievable is the norm. I wish people who don't get this point would leave their tedious lives in Europe, North America, or wherever, and would travel to the Indian subcontinent. If they left right away, they could be having breakfast there by tomorrow morning and they'd understand that India is a realm crafted in magic of its own. As for myself, I was well aware that the idea of writing of my experiences with the incomparable magician Hakim Feroz would be extremely unpopular with him. And they were. Feroz telephoned to me one monsoon night. I could hear the rain coming down in sheets behind him. And I can remember the quavering anger in his voice. As soon as I had heard the click-click of an international line, I'd known it was Feroz. He was fuming. As far as he was concerned, I had denigrated my time with him to fodder for a travel book. It was a view that upset me greatly. I have always held Feroz in the highest respect. When he died in 2001, I felt an emptiness that I have rarely experienced. It was a sense that a life had ended that could never be lived again. Hindsight is the most remarkable privilege. I can now look back with some amusement at the trials and tribulations to which I was subjected, a sadistic pleasure for the master. And I can smile at it all. But far more importantly, I can see that what Feroz had wanted was for me to be exposed to levels of thought and understanding that pass almost everyone else by. He reduced me to the raw metal, and only then began the laborious process of building me up. 10 years after publishing Sorcerer's Apprentice, I planned a short novel about a washed-up British stage magician who travels to India, the land of his ancestors. After a series of trials and tribulations, he's spotted performing a simple feat of illusion on a street corner. The next thing he knows, he's being lauded as a real-life guru. He gains a worldwide following and the kind of wealth that only tin pot dictators usually ever achieve. The plan for the novella was put in a drawer along with a great number of others and left there to sleep until the right moment came along. Another decade passed. Then, one weekend, I watched the Netflix series Wild Wild Country about the machinations of the indefatigable Indian guru known as Bhagwan Rajneesh, aka Osho. Unable to resist, I dusted off the plan for the novel and knocked out a book entitled God-Man. Writing the novella allowed me to revisit my own adventures through India on the trail of illusion and the pupillage under the master Hakim Feroz. I found myself thinking hard about my own fascination for magic and illusion. The quest for illusion was what had kept my attention and was the catalyst that had got me started in the first place, but it wasn't the real thing of value. The value was in learning to see what I thought I understood with fresh eyes. My favorite axiom of all time is from Arabia. It goes, much travel is needed before the raw man is ripened. There's no place better for ripening rawness than India. And there's no better way of opening oneself up to being ripened than following a quest. It's a theme which has run through much of my work because I've learnt that a quest, however crazy or zigzag it is, can open doors that had been invisible until then. I spend my life encouraging young people to head off into the wild unknown without preparing or giving a journey too much thought. We live in a society that's obsessed with preparation, with planning and with analysing, but one that's blinkered to the Oriental concept of absorbing through cultural osmosis. Stand on a street corner in any Indian city with the maelstrom of traffic swirling around you. Close your eyes, take a deep breath and let it all wash in. You can be certain of one thing, that you'll leave a very different person than when you arrived.